Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to PrepBee. Today we are going to do TAT 2023 Slot 3 passage. So let's get started without further ado. In 2006, the Met Art Museum in the US agreed to return the Euphronix freighter, a masterpiece Greek urn that had been a museum draw since 1970. In 2007, the Getty Art Museum in the US agreed to return 40 objects to Italy, including a marble Aphrodite in the midst of looting scandals. And in December, Sotheby's and a private owner agreed to return an ancient Khmer statue of warrior pulled from auction 2 years before to Cambodia. They're just citing the line here. What they're trying to tell is in 2006, the Met Museum gave back an important ancient Greek urn, uh, which was very popular since 1972. In 2007, another museum agreed to return 40 items to Italy as part of a response to issues involving a stolen artifact. In December, Sotheby's and an individual owner, they decided to return an ancient Khmer warrior statue to Cambodia after it was removed from auction 2 years earlier. So now cultural property or patrimony. Laws limit the transfer of cultural property outside the source country's territory, including outright export prohibitions and national ownership laws. Most art historians, archaeologists, museum officials, and policymakers portray cultural property laws in general as invaluable tools for counteracting the ugly legacy of Western cultural imperialism. So, cultural property laws, also called as the patrimony laws, they restrict the movement of cultural items outside their home country, often through export bans or through, declaring national ownership. They outrightly, they restrict the movement of these cultural items outside their home country. So many experts and officials see these laws as essential for protecting country from negative impacts of past Western cultural domination. All right. During the late 19th and early 20th century, an era former Met director Thomas Hoven called the Age of Piracy. American and European art museums acquired antiquities by hook or by crook from grave robbers or souvenir collectors, bounty from digs, and ancient sites in impoverished but art-rich source countries. Patrimony laws were intended to protect future archaeological discoveries against Western imperialist designs. So in the late 1800s and early 1900s, all right, Time former Met director Thomas, he called the age of piracy. American and European museums, they obtained artifacts through very questionable means, including buying from grave robbers or collectors, often from poor but artifact-rich countries. So these laws, the patrimony laws, they were created to shield future archaeological finds from being taken away by Western countries. I surveyed 90 countries with one or more archaeological sites on UNESCO's World Heritage Site list, and my study shows that in most cases, the number of discovered sites diminishes sharply after a country passes a cultural property law. There are 222 archaeological sites listed for those 90 countries. When you look into the history of these sites, you see that all but 21 were discovered before the passage of cultural property laws. So the author is telling that he's studied 90 countries with UNESCO World Heritage archaeological sites and found that usually fewer new sites are discovered after cultural property laws are established. These 90 countries have 222 listed archaeological sites, and nearly all, except for 21, were found before the cultural property laws were put in place. All right. So strict cultural patrimony laws are popular in most countries, but the downside may be that they reduce incentives for foreign governments, non-governmental organizations, and educational institutes to invest in overseas exploration because their efforts will not be necessarily rewarded by opportunities to hold, display, and study what is uncovered. All right, so now these laws, the downside is that they reduce incentive for foreign governments to invest in these exploration because you cannot hold, display, or study what is uncovered. To the extent that source countries can fund their own archaeological projects, artifacts, and sites may still be discovered. The survey has far-reaching implications. It suggests that the source countries, particularly in developing world, should narrow their cultural property laws so that they can reap the benefits of new archaeological discoveries, which typically increase tourism and enhance cultural pride. This does not mean nations should abolish restrictions on foreign excavation and foreign claims to artifacts. Author is saying that he's not trying to tell that you should, completely abolish all the restrictions that are there on foreign excavation or foreign claims to artifacts, but you need to look into this account as well, that doing this, establishing all the cultural or patrimony laws, they will narrow down your exploration. The source country will rather invest in their own countries and see what is still undiscovered. And so, at least developing countries, they should narrow down these laws so that they can get the benefits from the new archaeological discoveries. What are the benefits from archaeological discoveries? Tourism. All right. China provides an interesting alternative approach for source nations eager for foreign archaeological investment. From 1935 to 2003, China had a restrictive cultural property law that prohibited foreign ownership of Chinese cultural artifacts. In those years, China's most significant archaeological discovery occurred by chance in 1974 when peasant farmers accidentally uncovered ranks of buried terracotta warriors, which were a part of Emperor Qin's spectacular tombstone. In 2003, the Chinese government switched course, dropping its cultural property law and embracing collaborative international archaeological research. Since then, China has nominated 11 archaeological sites for inclusion in the World Heritage Site list, including 8 in 2013, the most ever for China. All right. So here the author is just trying to say that China, they have a different example. They offer a different example for countries that are looking to foreign funding for archaeological thing. Between 1935 to 2003, China had strict laws that prevented the foreign ownership of artifacts. But during this time, China's biggest archaeological find happened in 1974, when farmers discovered the famous terracotta warriors. All right, so in 2003, China, they changed their law, they welcomed all the international partnerships, and since then, China has been prospering in this domain. So now let's look into the questions. From the passage, we can infer the author is likely to advise poor but archaeologically rich source countries to do all of the following except. So the author is trying to say that you need to narrow down your cultural laws, right? You need to narrow down your this one, patrimony laws. To find ways to motivate other countries to finance archaeological explorations in this country, obviously the author would suggest this. Allow foreign countries to analyze and exhibit the archaeological finds. True. Adopt China's strategy. Yes, they are supporting. Fund institutes in other countries to undertake. How will you fund institutes in other countries to undertake archaeological exploration in source country, reaping the benefits of cultural edging techniques? You are poor. How will you fund? So fourth is your answer. It can be inferred from passage that archaeological sites are considered important by some source countries because why are they first source countries we are talking, all right? So they give all right. Passage that archaeological sites are considered important by some source countries because they give boost to tourism sector. Okay, mentioned, we'll hold on to this. Are a symbol of Western imperialism? No, not at all. They generate funds for future discoveries. Nowhere mentioned, we cannot say. They are subject to strict patrimony laws. Then why will be they considered important? One is your answer. Which one of the following statements, if true, would undermine the central idea? So which one would be kept? Affluent archaeological rich source countries can afford to carry out their own excavations. Yes, they can. Developing nations को दिक्कत होती है. Museums established and economically deprived archaeologically rich source countries can display the antiques discovered there. Yes. Western countries, I mean, no mention is given. How would they weaken the central idea that laws को थोड़ा narrow down करना चाहिए? So no relations. So hence we will not consider this. Western countries will have to apologize to countries for looting their cultural property property in the past century. Central idea का नहीं है ना इसकी बात की गई है कि apologize करो. UNESCO finances archaeological research in poor but archaeologically rich source countries. So UNESCO finances in poor countries, finances archaeological researches in poor but archaeologically rich source countries. Now, if UNESCO would have financed तो तुम्हें दिक्कत ही नहीं आती. You didn't have to depend on other countries for your exploration, right? Which one of the following statement best expresses the paradox? What is a paradox? तुम्हें अपना कल्चरल जो भी साइट है वो बचा के भी रखनी है, बट एट द सेम टाइम एक्सप्लोर भी करना है तुम्हें, राइट? फॉर टूरिज्म एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट. सो लेट्स सी. They were intended to protect cultural property, but instead resulted in neglect of historical sites. Now, this is distortion. They did not result in neglection of historical sites. It's just reduced, like ये कह रहा है कि neglect ही कर दिया पूरे historical sites को. No, it just, reduced the number of exploration projects that they were there. They reduced business for auctioneers like Sotheby. Not mentioned, so we'll not consider this. They reduced new archaeological discoveries. Exactly my point. They did not neglect the historical sites, they reduced the discoveries. They resulted in withholding of national treasure, nowhere mentioned, so will not take into account. So let's do this. Parajambal. Veena Sahajwala, a materialist scientist at the University of New South Wales, believes there is new way of solving this problem. So there is some problem. Her vision, someone's vision. So I guess that is Veena's vision. So again, not the starting statement. E-waste contains huge quantities of valuable metals, ceramics, and plastics that could have been salvaged and recycled, although currently not enough of it is. She plans to. Again, she है तो 3 is giving you this problem वाला क्या problem है. Then right after that, then यहाँ भी she है, her है, तो obviously starting with be 1. Veena, who is a scientist, there is a new way of solving this problem. Now, what is she trying to do? She is trying to, her plan is given here. She's planning to build something, and then what is her vision? 3142. Now, centuries later, formal learning is still mostly based on reading, even with the widespread use of other possible educations affecting technology such as film, radio, and television. One of the immediate and recognizable impacts of the printing press was how people learned. In the scribal culture, it primarily involved listening, so memorization was paramount. The transformation of learners from listeners to readers was a complex social and cultural phenomenon, and it was not until the industrial era that the concept of universal literacy took root. The printing press shifted the learning process as listening and memorization gradually gave way to reading and learning no longer required the presence of a mentor. It could be done primarily. So 2 is basically introducing your statement that one of the recognizable impact of the printing press, what is that? On how people learn. So people learn in the scribal culture, it primarily involved listening. So memorization was paramount. But now it changed the way people learn. The printing press, what did it do? It shifted the learning process. As listening and memorization gave way to reading and learning, no longer required the presence of a mentor. It could have been done privately as well. So now what this now we are talking about transformation of learners from listeners to readers was very difficult. It was not until the universal literacy took root. Centuries later, formal learning is still based on reading. 2431. It is talking about the printing press, how people started learning. The printing press shifted the learning process, and now there is no need of a mentor. It can be done privately. When did it happen? And even now, it is most likely most widely used one. So 342431. So this is the passage. If you have any doubt, please let us know in the comment box and we'll be happy to help. Thank you.